Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something that's probably within reach for almost everyone listening right now.
The smartphone,
Yeah.
our brightest, maybe most constant companion.
Exactly. And our mission today is really to dissect that relationship, not just, how much time we spend on it, but what's the real psychological cost? What's it doing to our minds?
It's a big question.
It is. So let's just start with a quick, honest check-in. Think about this morning. What was the very first thing you looked at when you woke up? Was it the ceiling, your partner, or was it that screen?
And rewind to last night, the absolute last thing your eyes scanned before you tried to sleep.
For so many of us, the overwhelming majority, the answer is the phone. It's right there, always.
It's become almost like another limb, hasn't it? A sensory extension. And the numbers, they really are something else, globally and right here in our region too.
We're not talking small amounts of time.
No, not at all. We're looking at a daily average screen time nudging up close to 3 hours. Think about that.
3 hours a day? That's what, 21 hours a week? Over 1,000 hours a year.
Exactly. Just staring into that glowing rectangle.
It's wild. That's like having a serious part-time job or watching nearly 2 full movies every single day. And the sneaky part is, we tell ourselves it's okay because, well, it's useful, right? It's a map, a camera, email.
It's a tool. That's the justification.
But that brings us to the core question we really need to unpack today. How did this thing, this device we see as just a helpful tool, somehow manage to rewire our brains? How did it start changing our happiness, our ability to just focus?
That's the reckoning, I think. We're moving beyond just saying, oh, it's distracting. We're now looking at actual measurable costs.
Yeah, the hidden toll.
We need to unpack the data that links all this screen time, not just to say getting less work done, but to real increases in anxiety, higher risks of depression, and that constant background hum of modern life.
FOMO, fear of missing out.
That pervasive feeling, yeah. It's
Yeah.
become almost neurological background noise.
Okay, let's get into this. Because the way this whole situation developed, it wasn't an accident, was it? It feels very much by design.
Oh, absolutely. It is the design, the platforms, the apps. They're built to target basic human psychological vulnerabilities.
And their main weapon, so to speak.
It boils down to dopamine, exploiting how our brains respond to it.
Right, dopamine, often called the pleasure chemical, but that's not quite right, is it?
Not really, no. It's
Yeah.
a common misconception. Neurologists would more accurately describe it as the seeking hormone or the anticipation hormone.
Seeking.
Yeah. Dopamine isn't really about the pleasure of having something. It's the motivator that makes you look for something. It drives wanting, expectation, curiosity. It's the engine saying, go find it.
Okay, so if dopamine drives the seeking, how do these apps and platforms turn that into, well, this constant checking?
They masterfully use something called a variable reinforcement schedule. It's all about rewards, but unpredictable ones.
Like getting a notification. A like.
Exactly. That little red dot, the buzz in your pocket, seeing someone like your photo, boom. You get an immediate small hit of dopamine. It's not deep satisfaction. It's more like a quick neurological attaboy that tells your brain, hey, check back here soon.
And that creates a loop.
A very powerful feedback loop, almost reflexive. You get the cue, you check, you get a tiny reward, and your brain learns. Checking feels good, do it again.
The comparison people often make is to gambling. Is that fair?
It's incredibly fair. It's practically the same mechanism. Think about a slot machine. If you knew it paid out exactly every 10 pulls, you could probably walk away easily.
Right. Predictability is boring.
But these platforms use what behaviorists like B.F. Skinner identified as variable ratio reinforcement. You don't know when the next reward is coming.
Could be the next scroll, could be in an hour.
Precisely. That uncertainty is what makes it so compelling, so addictive. Will this next refresh show something amazing? A crucial update. Validation from someone. You keep pulling the digital lever, just in case.
And that physical motion, the pull to refresh on so many apps, that's not accidental either, is it?
Not at all. That downward swipe, the brief pause, then the reload. It's functionally the same as pulling the handle on a slot machine. A physical action tied directly to the anticipation of an unpredictable reward. It trains compulsive checking.
Wow. So you're constantly trained to think the next scroll, the next check might be the important one.
And that constant seeking, that hunt for the next little hit of information or validation flows right into this other huge issue.
FOMO.
Yeah, the fear of missing out. It's deeply tangled up in this dopamine-seeking behavior, that restless, anxious feeling you get when your phone isn't nearby. That's partly your biology screaming you might be missing a dopamine opportunity, a reward. The platforms thrive on making you feel that life, the real fun, the important stuff, is always happening somewhere else, somewhere you're not,
Always somewhere else. Documented on the feed.
which keeps you in this chronic state of feeling excluded, like you're on the outside looking in.
And the damage really ramps up when that FOMO feeling combines with the endless comparisons, right? That's where it gets really tough on mental health.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is where maladaptive social comparison really takes root. Look, comparing ourselves to others is, well, it's human. We do it naturally.
Sure.
But social media gives us this infinite, curated, and fundamentally flawed pool for comparison. When you're scrolling, what are you actually seeing?
The good stuff, the highlights.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The showcase life. The perfectly filtered, cropped, edited, best 1% moments of someone else's existence. Their vacation photos, their promotions, their perfect-looking brunch.
And we're sitting there comparing that to our own reality.
To your 100% reality.
Yeah.
Your messy kitchen counter, your doubts about work, your quiet, maybe boring Tuesday afternoon.
It's an unfair fight from the start.
Completely impossible. You're stacking your full, complex, sometimes difficult reality against someone else's highlight reel. Psychologically, it's almost guaranteed to lead you downwards.
Less self-worth, more anxiety.
The studies are pretty clear on this. More time spent passively scrolling, just consuming this stuff, correlates strongly with drops in self-esteem and big increases in general anxiety, social anxiety, especially for younger people still figuring out who they are.
It's interesting because I think a lot of people feel like scrolling is relaxing, zoning out. But it sounds like the opposite is true.
It often is the opposite. That passive consumption mode, the endless comparison. It can feel like downtime, but it's actually a low-key stressful activity.
How so?
There's this constant subtle pressure to measure up, to keep looking, to perform, even passively. The fact that more time spent passively on social media tracks alongside higher risks of depression and anxiety isn't just a coincidence.
It's baked into the system.
It's a structural issue with the environment we've let become so dominant in our mental space.
Okay, so the emotional and psychological costs are huge. Engineered addiction, FOMO, comparison traps. But now we need to shift gears a bit and look at another major cost, one we might not even notice day to day.
Yeah, the toll it takes on our actual ability to think clearly, our cognitive function, and even our physical health.
We tend to think, okay, the phone's face down or it's off. I'm focused. But that might not be true.
The research suggests it's definitely not true. There's a kind of silent cost just by having it nearby.
This brings us to that University of Austin study you mentioned. It had a pretty startling finding about cognitive capacity, right? Just having the phone near you.
Yeah, that study was fascinating. They call it brain drain. Basically, they had people do a series of tests that required a lot of focus, working memory, problem solving, that sort of thing.
Standard cognitive tests.
Right. But here's the key. While they did the tests, their phones were either placed visibly on the desk, kept in their pocket or bag, or put in a completely different room, untouched in all cases.
And the results? What happened when the phone was just present?
The people whose phones were on the desk or even just in their pocket scored significantly lower on those cognitive tests compared to the group whose phones were in another room.
Wow, just the proximity, even if they didn't touch it or look at it.
Exactly. Just knowing it was there, within reach, seemed to drain their available cognitive resources.
So it's not just the interruption of notification, it's like part of our brain is constantly on guard, monitoring the phone.
That's the theory. A portion of your cognitive bandwidth, your mental RAM, is constantly, subconsciously allocated to just monitoring the phone's status. Is there a notification? Should I check it? It's like running background antivirus software all the time. It uses up resources.
And that constant low-level distraction just chips away at our ability to do, well, deep work.
It absolutely demolishes the capacity for deep thinking. Real deep work needs sustained, unbroken focus, sometimes for hours. But if your brain is trained to expect, even anticipate, an interruption or potential reward every few minutes,
You can't settle into that deep state.
it becomes fundamentally difficult. Your mind gets conditioned to be fractured, to skim the surface. Complex thinking starts to feel really hard, unnatural even, exhausting.
We lose that ability to concentrate deeply. Okay, so our thinking power is diminished. If that wasn't bad enough, let's talk about sleep. That pre-bedtime scroll feels almost universal now.
It's a huge problem for sleep. A triple threat, really. First, you've got the blue light factor.
Right, the light from the screen itself.
Yeah. These screens emit a lot of light in the blue wavelength spectrum. And our brains have evolved over millennia to associate blue light with.
Daytime. Sunshine.
Exactly. High noon. So, your ancient brain circuitry, specifically a little cluster of cells called the SCN, sees that blue light and thinks, oh, it's still daytime.
And what does that do?
It slams the brakes on the production of melatonin. That's the hormone your body needs to regulate your sleep-wake cycle, to make you feel tired and ready for sleep. Looking at a screen right before bed is like sending a chemical signal. Don't sleep yet.
So you're actively fighting your own biology, delaying sleep, even if you're just reading an article or scrolling passively.
Often by 20 minutes, half an hour, sometimes more. But it's not just the light chemistry. It's also the content you're consuming.
Ah, right. What you're actually looking at matters too.
Hugely. Just before you're trying to transition into a state of rest and calm, you're often flooding your brain with high arousal material.
Like stressful news, arguments online.
Or even just exciting social media updates that give you those little dopamine hits. It leaves your mind agitated, hypervigilant, or anxious. Not exactly ideal for drifting off.
So poor quality sleep follows.
You get what sleep scientists call fragmented sleep architecture. You might be technically unconscious for 8 hours, but you have more micro-awakenings, less restorative deep sleep, maybe less REM sleep. The quality plummets.
Which means you wake up feeling
Tired, groggy, lower energy, maybe more irritable, higher stress, which ironically might make you reach for the phone first thing for a quick hit of stimulation.
vicious cycle. Wow. Okay, and beyond the brain and sleep, there are actual physical effects too. It's not just mental.
Definitely not. The way we hold ourselves while using these devices, it's literally changing our posture, causing physical problems.
You mean tech neck. It sounds kind of funny, but it's a real thing.
It's a very real and quite significant musculoskeletal issue. Your head weighs, what, 10, 12 pounds on average?
Something like that?
When your head is balanced upright over your spine, the strain on your neck muscles is minimal. But for every inch you tilt your head forward to look down at that screen,
The strain increases.
exponentially. Tilting your head forward just 60 degrees, which is common when looking down at a phone in your lap, puts about 60 pounds of pressure on your cervical spine and upper back muscles.
60 pounds. No wonder so many people have chronic neck pain, shoulder stiffness, headaches.
Exactly. We've adapted our posture to serve the device, and it's causing long-term physical strain. Our bodies weren't designed for this.
Which brings us back to that idea of an evolutionary mismatch.
Precisely. Our basic hardware, our brains, our bodies, they evolve over thousands, millions of years. Our minds were shaped for things like sustained focus needed for hunting or gathering or building shelter, maybe focusing intensely for 3 hours on one task.
Not scrolling an infinite feed for 3 hours.
Absolutely not. We weren't designed to process this constant fragmented stream of random, high-stimulation, context-free information for hours on end. It's like trying to run brand new, incompatible software on very old hardware. The result: burnout, anxiety, system overload.
Okay, we've painted a pretty stark picture here. The engineered addiction, the dopamine loops, FOMO, the cognitive drain, the sleep disruption, even the physical pain. The diagnosis seems clear.
It's pretty comprehensive, yeah.
But, as you said earlier, just getting rid of the phone entirely, that's not realistic for most people. It is a necessary tool for modern life.
Right. So the goal isn't total abandonment. It can't be. The goal has to be shifting from being controlled by the tool to being in control of the tool.
Demon control.
It's about emancipation through intentionality, setting up boundaries, conscious usage, implementing what we might call a digital diet.
A digital diet. I like that. Okay, let's get practical. Strategy 1 you mentioned tackles those really vulnerable times of day, the screen time fast.
Yes, this is fundamental. The rule is simple, but powerful. Do not touch your phone for the first hour after waking up and the last hour before going to sleep. Full stop.
Creates a buffer zone.
Exactly. Around the start and end of your day. The benefits for the last hour are pretty clear now, letting melatonin do its job, calming the mind.
Right, but why is that first hour in the morning so crucial? What's the big deal about checking email or news right away?
Because that first hour sets the tone, the emotional and cognitive tone for your entire day. If the very first input you get is your phone,
You're reacting immediately.
you're immediately outsourcing your morning agenda to whatever the phone throws at you. Emails demanding attention, stressful news headlines, other people's social media drama. Your brain kicks into a reactive, often slightly anxious mode from minute one.
Whereas the fast lets you.
It ensures your day begins on your terms, according to your intent. Maybe that's exercise, meditation, planning your day, reading a physical book, talking to your family. You start proactively, intentionally, before the digital world starts making demands.
Shifting from reactive to intentional, that sounds powerful. Okay, strategy 2. Tackling the constant interruptions. Notifications.
Ah, the notification barrage.
Mhm.
This is where we have to be really honest about the engineering. Estimates vary, but it's likely that around 90% of the notifications you receive are not urgent person-to-person communications.
What are they?
They're platform calls. They are specifically designed by the app developers solely to lure you back into the app, to re-engage you, to keep you consuming. They are the little pings from the variable reward system.
The digital dinner bell, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So tackling this requires getting aggressive because the default phone settings are usually designed for maximum notification noise.
So the tactic.
Turn them off.
Hmm.
Silence or completely disable notifications for every single non-essential app. Be ruthless. Keep alerts for maybe direct text messages, phone calls, calendar reminders, things that are actually communication or time sensitive for you.
Not just the app wanting your attention.
Exactly. And leverage your phone's built-in tools, with things like focus modes or do not disturb schedules. Set up profiles for work, personal time, sleep, that automatically silence all but the most critical contacts or apps during those periods.
So the phone works for you on your schedule, not the other way around.
That's the goal. Check apps when you decide to, not when they summon you.
There's another little visual trick here too, isn't there? Something about color?
Yes. This one is surprisingly effective. Switch your phone screen to grayscale.
Black and white. Why does that help?
Because the digital world is designed to be hyper-stimulating visually. App icons, notifications badges, videos, photos, they use bright, saturated colors. Reds, blues, yellows, they're eye-catching, rewarding.
They grab your attention.
By stripping away all that color, you instantly make the whole experience less visually appealing, less rewarding. Those bright red notification bubbles just become dull gray circles. Scrolling through photos or videos becomes, less exciting.
Takes the addictive edge off the visuals.
Interesting. Okay, that leads nicely into strategy 3, being clear about why you're even picking up the phone.
Yeah.
Focusing on purpose.
Yes. This requires making a clear mental distinction between two modes of using your phone: consumption and creation.
Consumption being.
Passive scrolling, watching videos endlessly, reading comments, just generally absorbing content. This is usually the mode that generates anxiety and eats up time.
And creation.
That's using the phone actively as a tool. Writing an email, sending a specific message, taking a photo, using a map, writing a note, making a call, using it for a defined purpose.
And the digital diet focuses on limiting.
Aggressively limiting the consumption time. That's the target.
Okay, but how do you actually enforce that? It's so easy to open an app just to send one quick message and then, poof, half an hour has gone down a rabbit hole of watching videos. I know I do that.
We all do. Because the apps are brilliantly designed to facilitate that slide from creation into consumption. So you need to impose a rule of explicit intentionality.
Before you open any app that's high risk for endless consumption, social media, news feeds, video platforms, you actually state your specific purpose out loud or in your head.
Like, I am opening Instagram only to reply to my sister's message.
Exactly. Or, I am checking the news headlines for 5 minutes, then closing it. You define the mission beforehand.
And the key step to make sure you stick to it.
Use the built-in tools again. App limits or screen time functions. Set hard time limits for those high consumption apps. If you set 5 minutes for news, set a 5-minute timer. When it goes off, you get booted out.
Forces you back to being intentional.
It trains your brain. The app becomes a destination for a specific task with a clear start and end, not just an infinite void you can fall into whenever you're bored or anxious. You shift from being a passive consumer, just taking whatever the algorithm feeds you, to an active, conscious user.
Making the choice. Okay, that's really practical. Finally, strategy 4 gets to the heart of the social part of social media: elevating real communication.
Right. We've become very reliant on these thin forms of digital connection. The quick like, the emoji reaction, the brief comment. It feels like connection, but it's often quite superficial.
Doesn't really satisfy that deeper need.
Generally, no. It doesn't fulfill the fundamental human need for genuine connection in the same way. The research here is really compelling. While digital interactions can sometimes feel performative or even increase anxiety,
Real communication does the opposite.
real communication, actually talking to someone face-to-face, hearing the nuances in their voice over a phone call, reading body language, triggers the release of different neurochemicals, particularly oxytocin.
Oxytocin, that's the bonding hormone, right? The
Yeah.
trust and connection chemical.
That's the one. It fosters feelings of closeness, safety, and well-being. Genuine interactions, even just a proper phone call, boost happiness and reduce stress far more effectively and sustainably than scrolling through updates or getting 100 likes.
So that fleeting dopamine hit from a notification just can't compare to the feeling from a real conversation.
Not even close in terms of lasting well-being. Prioritizing real-world interactions, making time for actual conversations is probably the strongest antidote we have to the comparison traps and the low-grade anxiety that the digital showcase life often generates.
Okay, so bringing this all together, this whole deep dive seems to circle back to one really crucial lesson, doesn't it?
I think so.
The smartphone is an incredible tool, maybe one of the most powerful tools humanity has ever created. But the moment you let that tool dictate your sleep, your focus, your mood, your self-worth, it stops being a tool.
It becomes the master.
Exactly. And reclaiming that control, managing your mental health and your happiness in this digital age, it is possible. It comes down to conscious, intentional usage.
We spent time really laying out the cost today, that engineered pull, the fractured attention, the cognitive energy that's just leaking away, constantly monitoring these devices, even when we're not using them.
Right. So as we wrap up, we want to leave you with one final thought, something to really chew on.
Think about all that mental energy we've been discussing. That subconscious vigilance, the anticipation of the next notification, that slightly fractured state of mind. It's not trivial. It represents a real chunk of your daily cognitive capacity.
Okay.
Now, imagine you successfully implement some of these strategies. You create those buffer zones, you silence the noise, you use the tool intentionally. What if you could redirect even a fraction of that recovered mental energy?
Redirect it where?
What if you consciously dedicated the energy you currently spend just passively monitoring your phone towards something deliberate, towards deep focus on a project, towards reading challenging material, towards creative thinking, towards complex problem solving, even if it was just for 30 solid uninterrupted minutes each day?
30 minutes of truly focused energy reclaimed from the phone.
What kind of profound, tangible difference could that small, deliberate shift make in your work, in your learning, in your relationships, in your overall sense of calm and presence?
That's the real potential here, isn't it? Beyond just managing the downsides.
That's the power of taking back control, the power of the digital diet. It's within your reach.
We really encourage you to try implementing these principles, maybe starting with that screen time fast the first and last hour. See how it feels.
Start small, be consistent.
Thanks for diving deep with us on this one. It's a big topic, and hopefully this gave you some things to think about and some tools to use. We'll catch you next time.